Welcome to the most exciting 60 minutes of your day, maybe even of the week. I introduce myself shortly. I'm Nico, the founder of Bots and People, and we create meaningful work for everyone. And we do that by enabling people to automate their processes and make their jobs better through doing this. And we invited a super interesting special guest today. Julian is with me. Maybe Julian, you can say a couple of words to introduce yourself.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, Nico, for having me. It's a pleasure, a great opportunity to always to speak with you and to the audience that we see here already. As I said to you before, I'm pumped up. I'm looking forward to those 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm actually the RVP here in the Alps region. I was first man on the ground in Switzerland for UiPath back in beginning of 2018, and have seen a lot throughout the years. And I'm actually happy to share some golden nuggets from customer projects that we did, and happy to walk through this and provide as much insights as I can deliver.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Julian. We are also hyped. I hope you in the chat are also quite hyped. You can give us a little signal with a thumbs up or a short hello in the chat so that we know you are awake. And we want to do it super interactive. So it won't be just us talking. We want you to use the chat, ask questions, and make it a mutual discussion. Yeah, I see already the first thumbs up. This is how it should go. And what do we have on our agenda today? It's quite packed. The first point, we will show you, give you little insights on why upskilling and automation is so important, and also the human side of automation is so important. Then Julian will give an input, a very practical, on how is it working with the companies UiPath is working at, how do they get the people on board usually, and then we will also go over some super practical tips how HR departments and the people side of a company actually can support an automation or digital transformation initiative, and we will also leave some room for you to ask questions. Yeah, I already see some rockets in the chat. This is how it should be. First question to you, and you can use the chat to guess, what do you see on these pictures? Like some keywords, what is it? I'm going to wait a bit until you are active. Competition, yeah, competition in esports. So the below picture is symbolizing esports, and the upper picture, what do you think? Maybe some guess. Battle of bots? Not really, but good guess. Now, what you see on this pictures is a telesurgeon on the one hand, and on the other hand, you see an esports arena. And both jobs have in common that they didn't exist a while ago. And now you can also take a guess how many percentage of children that go to the first grade at the moment, how many percentage will do jobs in future that don't exist today of first class children? How many do jobs that don't exist right now? 30%, yeah, it's a bit low. Tizian, a bit low. 60, it's really good. Barbara, you nailed it almost at 65%. So the work environment is changing super fast. Many children will do jobs in future that don't exist at the moment. We are moving into a completely new age of work, and one driver for this is automation. And this has basically two streams why this is the case. The first part is because we can automate a lot of things. There's a McKinsey study saying 45%. I think it's a bit older already, but there's also newer studies that roughly say that 50% of the work we are doing at the moment in the workplaces are already automatable with existing technology. And the second part is that we have to automate a lot of things because On the one hand, there is a demographic change. We have to deliver in our companies the same value with less people in future. And also another aspect of this that the people now joining the companies, younger generations, are not willing to do repetitive tasks anymore. They want to do meaningful work and not copying over things from Excel to any sort of ERP system. There's a major skill gap in IT. And I want you also to take a guess, maybe take a second. You can also use the chat how many people can at the moment read, write, and count in our whole world. Also in percentage, 70%. Yeah, so it's 86%. And now you can take a second to guess how many people can actually write code. Coding languages. Well, 40% I think was still on the read, write, and count. 5%. Actually, it's super low. It's just 0.3%. So you might think there's a huge IT skill gap. We have to fulfill all these IT jobs until 2025. This is a number saying 5.5 million. Also here, there's many statistics indicating more or less the same number of occupations we will have to will get unfulfilled by 2025. But now AI and low code have changed the world again, and not suddenly, of course, because low code technology is nothing new. And low code is for me also kind of the hidden driver of digital transformation, because this enables really to make people that cannot write code themselves. So whereas in the old world, you would have a company, an IT department and IT people focusing on writing code, you would have a huge need for software developers to produce this technology, and you would have a very central IT landscape. You would have a demand management in your IT department, and someone would wanting to have an enhancement in the ERP system, and then it would take a couple of months until someone in the IT department can handle it. And in the new world, due to low code and no code, we have the chance to democratize the whole thing. We can democratize technology, and we can empower people in the business function that have the process know-how, at the same time develop the technologies. It skips a communication gap on the one hand, and on the other hand is also a way how we can solve this IT skill gap. So this is a huge chance to upskill people in process automation and technologies also like UiPath. But, and I guess a lot of you working in big companies that attend also this session, this licenses you see on the left side is implemented in almost every bigger company. The question is it already used to the full potential? And in most companies, it's not. We have seen that almost 50% of all work can be automated already. The technology is there. It's bought by the companies, but still the employees in the companies struggle to adopt the skills, or the companies struggle to teach the skills that are necessary to use this kind of technology. And at this point, I want to hand over to Julian and ask you, how's your experience? I mean, you're working for UiPath, and how have you seen that technology can be democratized, and how can UiPath in particular be used to its full potential?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I brought with me was this jar full of money that I have seen walking through Vienna. It was a very warm afternoon 4 years ago. And there was this street food festival with this Chinese corner there. I was just passing by, and I've seen that jar with a very powerful slogan on it that caught my attention. And it basically says, so if you fear change, leave it here. So I think that's a very funny, but also very provocative message. And I think this is at the moment one of the biggest opportunities, but also one of the biggest challenges that we see in order to make this democratization happen. So what does this imply is basically if you do not change, you leave a lot of money on the table. And change is a big topic, but it's by far nothing easy, right? So I think when a company is really committed to change and also to change the way they work, there they find this opportunity rising up with making automation and other technologies approachable and accessible to their teams, to their workforce. Then they're able to change also from the bottom up, not just top down. And in the end, I think profitability could be a byproduct of it, right? So this is why I think change is the most important topic in this entire discussion.
Yeah, see it the same, and also giving the employees the why they should change and why they should adapt the new technology. You mentioned in the conversations before this webinar 4 success factors of companies that adapt the change and that are really able to roll out automation technology to the whole workforce. What are these 4 success factors? And we also brought some visuals to underline it.
Yeah, I think what I have seen, what was one of the most important one of the 4, and that will be the executive sponsorship, right? Having a top-down vision, but also backing and getting not any headwind for change and automation. That is very important, right? And it starts at the top. So in Switzerland, you have a saying that the fish starts to stink at the head, right? And that's why I believe, out of the experience that I had with larger organizations that are now really seeing a lot of benefits out of the automation and citizen development engagements, that has started with a right executive sponsorship, meaning the CIOs and the CFOs and the CEOs that embrace change. So I think they're the first change agent. They give time to their people, time to innovate, time to build automation, and maybe take one step back, not always be totally immersed in the daily life, but also give them the room to experiment, to change something, and to build automations, basically. So it needs top executive sponsorship that drives it, that makes it part of the overall strategy. And by that, the customers that are doing this at scale, they also see that people really do it, right? Because there is an emphasis on it. There is a C-level mentioning of automation in every town hall, right? So there's a lot of this being visible towards the leadership and contributing to a goal that is being set. And there I'm already touching another success factor, but in order to make it happen, right? And we all know still bots do not build themselves. So there's people that need to build it, people that need to understand what the right automation opportunities are. And in order to facilitate that, organizations need to invest in the enablement and in the learning and development of their workforce. So I think this is also something very important for the HR people. So I always think it's really interesting, right? When I ask C-level people, what is their biggest expense? Where do they spend the most money? What is it? What do you think? It's the people, right? It's the workforce. So when they have even a department set up that is called human resources, right? You need to make it a good place to work in order to make them happy, because fluctuation is a huge problem in many of those, and attracting new talent is as well, right? So driving adoption and being an organization that enables upskilling, right? And is a place where I can go and say, look, at this organization, I learned how to develop my own bots, right? That is a plus. nowadays. And it goes back to the first thing that you said. There's going to be a lot of new jobs coming up, and it will change, right, if they want or not. So people need to be enabled. That's the second critical success factor. Then number 3, and this is what I touched in the beginning, is we need to have a goal. If we do not know where the goal is, right, why should we do it and where should we go, right? It's kind of this North Star model that you need to have. And here I would touch on a very good concept that I like a lot, and it's called Ikigai. Maybe you've heard it. It's a Japanese concept of finding purpose in life, right? I think this is also very important, and that's why I said in the beginning that profitability can be a byproduct, right? So if we have a goal set for citizen development, for example, or automation at scale, FTE savings maybe is not the right driver to put the mindset towards, hey, we need to change. Because just imagine very, very common situation. Hey, I'm building a bot that could actually do what my colleague is doing. So shall I do it? Shall I get him on board? Mm-hmm. That creates some tension sometimes, right? So it needs to be set in the right way. And in all the big successful projects that I have seen, where the people has been put in the middle and it's not an FTE reduction goal, those things are the ones that are going to be successful. Number 4, there is a central part to it that is not that much fun, right? But it's absolutely and very crucial to the success as well. And that's having the right operating model, meaning having the right governance practices in place. And imagine every year, right, audit comes in your organization. They will track and find anything that's not compliant when building bots, if you do not have the right standards, the right rules, and everything in place. So I remember 4 years ago, I was in Bratislava, in a big shared service center of one of our first customers in Central Europe, a big reinsurance company. And we were talking about citizen development back then. You know, back then we haven't had that sophisticated capabilities on our platform, and all the other competitors haven't had that either. So we came out of this meeting with like so much input what we need to have, that we said, okay, well, the product is not ready yet. It wasn't for citizen development. So that's where we started building up our Studio X components, and very important, workflow analyzers, rule configurators. You needed to have the option to blacklist, whitelist applications, and so on, right? This is where we came up with a lot of features that were required in order to make the governance around it happen, right? Because we all know if there's too much maintenance to be built on the bots, and you get bots that you need to rebuild as a COE, the citizen development approach is going to be more like a cost driver than an actual productivity driver. So that's why I'm saying number 4 is from technicality, from an operating standpoint, maybe the most important one.
Mm-hmm. And maybe asking a question directly towards this one, how do you make sure that it's not happening, that citizen development initiatives are just some people playing around with some things, but it doesn't drive results? How would you recommend going about this, and how should they collaborate with the Center of Excellence?
Look, the Center of Excellence shouldn't be a support function, first of all. This is what I strongly recommend. Otherwise, you just get tickets or questions all the day. So the responsibility around the bots needs to be with the business owner or the people that are building it. And setting them clear goals. I know a couple of customers of ours, they have a nice way of gamifying the entire approach. So gamifying in a way that it becomes kind of a competition throughout the organization. I like that's a public one, so I can mention it. Really like what Takeda is doing. So they call them automation ninjas, right? Japanese company again, but it is an entire cultural shift that happened with the entire ninja thing, because ninja is something very smart, very agile, and well, very spot on. So I believe to not just make it like a kind of toy approach, like giving people a toy, it needs to come with some overall goals again, right? And there need to be also responsibility out there that you earn your license. That's also an approach, right? You need to first go through the academy, you need to do courses, you need to get trained so that you properly will be able to use it. I always like the analogy when you get like a Lego Technics package, right? And you don't have any map, any instruction to it. I mean, what comes out could be like a total failure, right? So you need to have these guidelines in place. You need to set the right expectation as well. And one entry point or entry barrier that adds more value to it is defining what the capabilities are needed to be, so that he actually or she can actually get a license, right, and get the studio on her machine.
And what would you say are the signals that this democratizing automation technology works? Because if it's not, like, you won't see it obviously on the P&L, because people are not laid off, but people are actually equipped with technology. What are signals like a CIO or CFO could have a look at if it's working?
We measure it in terms of how much usage is there, how much it's growing. So we have our own COE. Obviously, we're drinking our own champagne here. I'm a citizen developer myself. So what we're doing is we measure it and we bring out scorecards every month so that everybody sees what we are doing, who are the people that are using it the most, who are bringing the most of value out of it. And that already helps a lot. These are signals that you can measure, right? So it's growing. Then second point would be you sense this kind of community spirit. So you have a community within your organization that is all around automation. New topics are actually discussed a lot on these community events, right? So it starts to grow organically, and people are excited about it. You get badges, and it's fun, right? It's fun being part of that community, and when you feel you can contribute to some major successes, as we see in annual reports or quarterly reports of our customers, right, where they say how much they have achieved and how much they're going to further invest in practices like this. I think that's the biggest signal when it's measurable and when we have real value out of it, and when people are getting excited about it and it's growing. So this is, I think, a very logical but very clear signal if it's successful or not.
Yeah, I had a super inspiring met a super inspiring person last week at a conference, Dario Kulic, and he was explaining that they did or there was an employee survey saying that people have too much work. And this is already the indication that you should start with democratizing automation tech and enable people to build their own technology, because it can help to improve that and improve employee satisfaction. That I found super inspiring, and he was also very inspiring about this. Maybe he's here. If not, I will need to tell him.
He's touching a great point. Already, like in terms of how HR can actually come in and change the game here. imagine all these job postings that are out there. Maybe they have a fancy name on top of it, right? But the content of the job seems to be quite boring on a lot of, if I just look at insurance, maybe if you look at the underwriting part or others, right, where you have a lot of fancy fancy names and fancy topics, but in the end, it's a lot of manual work that is basically behind this job posting, and I think this needs to change as well.
Yeah. What would you say in the companies you have seen or you are seeing at the moment that HR is involved enough, and also the CHRO or CPO, if it exists, is involved enough?
No, I think in most cases it's unfortunately too much perceived as a CIO IT topic, and this is where I think it's going already wrong, right? So you're becoming a cost factor, not something that is actually empowering the workforce. So just imagine if you have the HR in the mix, it is just completely different because it can be tied into OKRs or people development reports, right? It's becoming part of an entire organizational culture when you have HR on board. If you have no HR support, basically the question always goes in the right or in the wrong direction. Is this an IT project? Is it a project? I mean, at first, I would say it's a journey. If you look at the last 10 years into RPA, AI, all these automation and engagements, it will never end. Right? It's a journey that we're all on. And if it's 5 applications today, it's going to be 15 tomorrow. The day after, it's going to be 5 again, and then it's 15 again. Right? And it's the technology adoption that we see.
Yeah. And you said yesterday something also super inspiring of imagine a company where no one is automating anything.
Yeah, or where no one is innovating.
Yeah, no one innovating. Yeah.
Imagine how scary would that be, right? If you just have basically robots, just human robots doing their job daily, but nobody actually thinks of how could it be done better. And the worst thing would be that those people leave. You don't want to have your most creative and innovative people leaving the company. All the brain drain that goes away. We all know how much hiring actually costs, and I think this is something that organizations have a huge issue measuring. That what are actually the costs of fluctuation, not just from a hiring cost perspective, but from a value perspective for the company.
Yeah. And Julian, before we also go into some practical tips how HR could contribute further, because we invited for this webinar, and I'm pretty excited on when we do the reporting who attended, 50% HR people, 50% automation and IT people to bring the communities together. Do you have some more concrete examples like the one with Takeda and the automation ninjas? What are some UiPath customers that really have nailed it and democratized it and rolled out a very good initiative in terms of change management?
Well, there are a lot. The ones that I'm allowed to mention in public is PwC. I think PwC is doing a great job, and it is such a good fit to their core work organization, how they're built, right? There's a lot of data handling, and there was a lot of manual work, and there's so many people. When they get to pick their brains and get the automations that are replicable and at scale usable, this is where I think they're doing a fantastic job. Right? Get those golden nuggets out of the automation initiatives and get those people on the spot so that they are actually helping to change how they work, and also to change the margin of their project. So that would be a good one. Then we have a couple of others. I sometimes find it very fascinating that people are introducing citizen development because it's going to create some ideation around it. So they do not expect a big value coming out in terms of real automations being built, but it's creating a lot of pipeline and a lot of opportunities. And at the end of the day, it's also maturity stage, right? Where are they in the overall automation endeavor? How high is automation in terms of priority of all their strategy and their KPIs again?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, it's super interesting because just came out of the call literally this morning with an automotive company, and before rolling out an upskilling initiative, we also always ask what are the goals, what are the tangible outcomes that should come out of it. And they also said exactly like you at the moment, it's not that we need to produce use cases with, 1,000 hours back to the business a year. It's rather we want to build with first pilot small use cases that are tangible, that people can understand easily, and that they can get interactive with the technology, also know the go-to point when they have an automation idea and what is possible with the technology. And then they said then they trust their employees so much that they can afterwards look into the process optimization topics and then also bring the bigger fishes to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if you look at our platform, right, and what it has in terms of functionality, when you make it accessible and bring the entire end-to-end automation journey and all the requirements that you have available at the fingertip to your to your workforce, that's going to change already some things. People will try things out, but the best thing is when you have a clear framework around it with all these things in place that we see here on the slide, then it's going to be a success. And I believe it's going to become way easier to build bots. Right? We are working on our Wingman, which is basically a tool that helps you to just write what you want to do, and he will give you a suggestion in how the activities should look like and how they are actually combined. So that's what the UiPath is working on. So I just recently heard English is going to be the new programming language. So
interesting, yeah,
quite interesting. We're already embedding it, and we're working on it. So it's gonna become easier to build bots, and I think you're gonna touch the low code, no code part as well. So exciting times ahead, I believe, for this entire topic. And I believe one last thing that I need to mention here, I believe that the ones that have set the right foundation for it, meaning having already operating models and so in place, they will be way faster in implementing and adopting new technologies, new innovations.
Yeah. Thank you, Julian. It was super cool answers, and also thank you for this very practical examples of Takeda, for example, and PwC. What we want to do now, and then afterwards you can also ask me some questions. We want to now turn our heads a bit more towards the HR colleagues and look from their perspective and ask how you make it work. So how you make it work to support your IT and business colleagues from a learning and development or HR perspective. And the first point, and it will be a little bit underlining, Julian, what you said. So you said it's important to have a goal in mind, and this doesn't only count for the whole automation initiative, but also for learning and development. I mean, you can brag about, as you see in this meme, how many people you have trained, or you can also brag about how many skills you have trained. But it has to be somehow connected to an overarching business goal. So that's my a message to L&D and HR, and I have quite some experience in working also in L&D. Is quite tempting to expand your learning portfolio and have some more cooler workshops and cooler content for your learning management system. But it's much better if you align to the business goals and then try to tell a compelling story to the employees on why they should attend a training and why should they adopt skills. And the second point is that you need to think about a proper role concept. So it's not leading to a result if you just say, okay, we train people in automation. What do you mean with training people in automation? What should they be able to do afterwards in the organization, and what's their role? Will they have the leadership backup to actually work as a citizen developer? Because if you have to do it Friday evening at 9 p.m., probably you have to be a super motivated employee to do that, or you're never going to do it. And then you end up developing your one use case where you get granted time for the training, but you will never implement it in your daily work. And only then you are a real citizen developer. Based on that proper role concept, and then you can focus on the competencies. So whenever you have defined the roles, and this is just an example on how you can define the roles, it's different in each organization, then you can think about the competencies. And we divided it in three areas, the business acumen, the process excellence, and the automation solutions. And then you can fit in your respective roles in here. Also, it doesn't matter if which technology you're using at scale in your company. It makes no sense to train your employees to use in the one tool where you don't have licenses in the end, or the governance doesn't allow you to work in that kind of technology. And then the fourth point is, and I know, some funny creatives on the right side, is super important to build a proper change management, and Julian has also touched on this one. You can, of course, roll out automation trainings, you can roll out an upskilling initiative, but still that doesn't mean that people will jump on it and love to take part in the trainings. It's always also important to tell a story and to tell the why they should adopt the change and why it's important to create these new skills. And the creatives is a bit misleading, because that's actually the last thing you should care of. The first things are those 4 points is very easily broke down. It's a whole change management project if you want to do it properly, but it's to define the change story. Why is it important in your company to change? Why is it important for your employees to change? For example, there was one company, they have a 4-day week. And then there was a super, in my opinion, a very good storyline, because people were suffering, not really enjoying this 4-day week because they had still too much work, social pressure. And one answer to that can be automation. Hey, you want to enjoy your 4-day week? Then look into automating things. Just an example. So it doesn't have to be, you can save FTE in the end. Then proper stakeholder analysis. Think about who's affected by this change, who you have to take on board in the whole upskilling initiative. And then also an impact analysis. Think about who's affected, who has power on the change, like the IT departments. It really, really doesn't make sense to roll out a training on automation without speaking to your IT colleagues. It will, at one point, you have to talk to each other to make it really scale and drive real tangible results. And then you can think about a communication and training plan. The communication and training plan can then consist of things like internal podcasts, webinars, coffee chats, branding in the building, and many other things that fit to your organization, town hall meeting, and so on. Even seen cubes that were built up in front of the buildings where you could get inspired and kind of an museum for the topic of change. And then also Julian said with the ninjas, it's always a good idea to put at least a little bit of a creative theme around your automation upskilling initiative, whether it's ninjas, cowboys, astronauts, or it can be, it doesn't have to be so fancy if it doesn't fit your culture. It can be also something like navigating through a storm, but it's always good to have some metaphors in mind, especially for the top leadership to tell the story. Then it's important to prioritize the pioneers, not the skeptics. And yeah, hopefully not too many people that are here in the webinar have seen it, because I feel I have presented this slide already 50 times. But it's also super important. You see on this right side, this naked guy dancing on the grass, and he looks a little bit stupid, of course, dancing alone. And then a second first follower is joining, and they look less stupid. Two people dancing look less stupid than one person. And then in the end, the whole festival is dancing and just some people sitting on the floor. And what happens is that then the people sitting on the floor, they look a bit stupid. What this should tell is that, of course, in the beginning, it's hard, and there will be a lot of skeptics, and there will be a lot of people looking a bit skeptical on the upskilling and automation initiative. But as soon as you got enough first follower and pioneers on board, you can really change. You can really start a movement. And then the sixth point: do good things and talk about it. If it's aligned with IT and business, you have the chance to create a very good hero story, success story on what you achieved, also tangible results. It's important to not only say we have trained 20 people or 200 people. It's important to say what business outcome you have achieved with it, and put it in a success story and spread it in the organization. And most important is to put the people, not the bots or the technology, at the center of your strategy. What do you think, Julian? Or even the people in the webinar, do you have comments, questions about this?
So I totally agree with the last point here. One thing that I could add and would add is that at the end of the day, what's in it for me? Why should I do it? Right? And that is a very, very important point that needs to be addressed. And when you tie that back to the 4 success factors, then it becomes real, right? It needs to become real for everyone, and not just something imaginary. So communication is one of the most important things to get the people on board, right? To be part of it. Again, the community thought, but it needs to come with cadences, right? This needs to live. It's not just a one-time thing and one shot only. I don't believe then we will see the right value, and we're not going to see any change. We're just going to see like a little spike in change, but the real importance here is to keep the people engaged.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any questions from you? We want to open it up as well.
I saw one post from Heike.
Yeah.
Maybe Heike wants to outline a little bit more on that topic. So it seems there's a lack of imagination what's really possible. Maybe we could address that and see what potential solutions could be for that. Heike still here?
I think Heike here. Cannot see her in the chat. No, I think not, Julian. I think not. But I get her point also, right?
Yeah, that goes back to communication again, I would say. Do we have other questions?
Oh. She doesn't know where the micro button is. 1 second, Heike. I think I can invite you to the main stage. Just try this, Heike. Or you should been invited to us to join us. Hello.
Hi. Do you hear me? No.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes. Oh, it's great. I don't know how it happened. Okay, I was missing the micro button. Philip, you talked about what is necessary to get the employees into these projects. So in my experiences, most of the employees cannot have thoughts like that. It's about complexity and how to perform complexity into processes and tools. And they are still on the in the area of the 19s, where they imagine that a PC is just another kind of typewriter. So as I wrote it into the chat. This morning I had a workshop, and it was very astonishing for me, but I have to accept it. They are really mostly not able to think about what would be possible and how should my process be. If it was Christmas, how I now have the opportunity to make wishes. They cannot. They really are not able to do this because they are so introduced into terrorism. It's out of their mind. And I wonder right now what kind of competences and people who are able to work like this, to understand the business processes and to create bots or whatever you want, apps and so on, and automate the systems. What kind of competences do they really need, and where to put them into the organization? An enterprise service management or something else like this, they have to understand deeply the business processes, how they are working right now, today, and how they should work into an E2E or B2B process. But, well, the last 30 years in big OEMs, the people weren't trained to think so. So there's a big gap. For automation and digitalization in the big OEMs, I guess.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the perspective, Heike. I think it's a valid point. Julian, you were, I saw you were already attempting to answer, right?
Yeah, because I think Heike is touching a very important point here. It's like, how can you change the mindset of the people? And how do you get them to really participate? And I think here is again where HR needs to come in and where leadership needs to come in and build an enablement platform for them so that they really embark on this journey. And communication is a very important point here, right? It's not just that you say you do something, it's also how you say it, right? How you bring it to the people. That's why I think it's very important to set the right communication, and needs to fit the maturity and the culture in the organization so that you pull the right levers in order to change the mindset of the people and get this excitement about change in place.
Yes, I wonder if it's really a point of mindset or for enablement and teaching skills. So it's the area of bots and people, you know.
Thank you, Heike.
Yeah, I think they have to learn to think in such a dimension, and it's not possible for now. So I don't know if they really don't want it. For me, that's the kind of mindset. But they weren't. They simply don't know that it is possible. It's not in their mind, you know. It's quite different, different and difficult.
It's a challenge.
Thank you, Heike.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
No. Yeah, I would, Heike, I would also leave some space for the other questions, but thank you so much for your contribution. I will. It feels a bit weird, but I will remove you from the stage again to put the other people on. Or is it possible? Maybe it's possible to. Oh no, you can stay and mute. That's also good. Cool. Yeah, maybe we can get more people on the stage here, because there is another question. There's another question from NJF. NJF, you want to also come to the stage, because I think you make a brilliant point saying if HR is not automated, how should to attract or foster an automation mindset in the company? It's a brilliant point. I would like to know, yeah, what's behind that, and what's your experience? I invite you.
Goes in the lead by example kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say.
I think. So MJF has received an invitation. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, maybe you could explain what's your experience. Why do you see it like this? That HR is not automated, and I think it's a super valid point you make.
I think Marcel is frozen.
Okay.
I see a couple of other great questions.
Yeah, maybe we invite Janus. Janus, we try Janus. Yeah, Janus says for those companies that have their routine workers who refuse to change, they are good where they are. Why change and increase the workload? That can be done to encourage them in adopting the technology. What can be done?
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes.
Hi. Oh, I feel like I'm the odd one out here because I'm only the student. I'm here to learn. But I have a question because I'm from Thailand, and in here, automation is not like is a very new thing here. People work routine, people work on documents, and I do have a question of like people are feeling like they work routine and it's good enough, workload, while adding more workload and change. So what could be done more in that type of organization where routine workers are so used to what they're doing and they refuse to change?
Nico, do you want? Otherwise,
yeah.
I would have 1 point, actually 2 points. One is if you address it in a positive way, you need to be also very clear about what's in it for them, right? Why they should change. So the why is always more important than the how. If you address that, I think you're on a good track. The second point is, and that's the one that's more the reality, right? But people are actually a little bit hesitant to bring it up, but it's the fear that needs to be addressed. That if they don't change, they are going to be basically outplaced, right? So if they're not changing, change will just happen upon them. So that's the second part.
Yeah. I would touch on that what Julian said. Also, if you can automate something already, a routine task, then potentially this task a person is doing instead is not a meaningful task anymore. So short or longer, there will be new people joining the company that don't want to do this kind of task. That's the one point. And the other point is still people wants to still do this repetitive task that can be automated, those tasks are not giving any value to the company. I would say it like this, and then what Julian mentioned, you have to build a proper story around it, but also you won't get to anyone in the organization. There will be always people that are hard nuts to crack, you would say, and then you just deal with them as the skeptics. Yeah, it cannot be that you reach 100% in your organization.
One point here, out of my experience, and metaphor that I really liked was actually addressing the pain of the people, meaning maybe they do have to do overtime and are not getting paid for it. So what if you are able to tell them, hey, with automating these specific tasks, you don't have to do overtime anymore. That is something that would give them the right impression about what it's doing for them, and has a very real touch.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing this super relevant question. And then we can have another try with MJF. Maybe also you can say...
It's Mark, Joel.
Okay, perfect. Mark. Okay. Frozen again. Otherwise, we can go on with this. There's a question from Aniket. Many companies refuse to reduce FTE count and tell that we don't need RPA, even if we talk about the quality of work. How do we convince on that? So I'm gonna invite you to the stage as well. Okay. Mark, can you hear us?
Now, yes.
Now it's working. Perfect.
I have no idea. I was outside running, and now with the Wi-Fi, the app behaves differently, is confused or whatever. I restarted.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. But to make it short, as a point, you have HR running the old way, meaning you persist in having the same mindset, the same people.
I think he's gonna get one again.
Okay. Aniket, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, then we go on with you.
Yeah, okay. So the question was, which I already mentioned in the comment, that big companies who work on the mostly like the bureaucracy, or very like not open to change, and if you bring the topic to them about RPA and about process automation and digitalization, and if you also tell them about benefits of FT count and the quality of work that they will have, but still they don't want to change. I mean, first of all, they don't want to reduce the FT count, and the second, if you talk about the quality of work, it's also again problem to convince them. So how we could tackle this problem?
Well, the point that I see from a lot of customers is that in the end, right, you don't want to reduce FTE counts, because as a head of a specific department, for example, you kind of brag about how many people you have. You don't brag about how many bots you have in place or how effective your workforce is, right? And this is something we are addressing to the C-level topics, to them, because they need to understand, look, if you measure your growth and success based on the headcount, you're basically going in the wrong direction. I think this is a C-level topic, and it needs to be addressed there.
Yeah, but what more KPIs we can focus on? I mean,
efficiency.
Yeah, efficiency. That's also I mentioned. That's the quality of work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Retention of people. So if you play the HR card which I think is a very impactful one in this context. It's really what we said before about fluctuation, retaining and attracting talent, because that's a cost factor as well. And on the other side, it needs to show this business benefit, right? Which
Yeah,
I
the cost factor also comes
Yeah.
that where we have to always show the current cost and how after the implementation and all these costs. So
but
presentation is a good point actually.
And on your point with the quality of work, how do you measure that, and is it even measured today? That is, again, right, it needs to be in place, otherwise
what I mean is that the possibility of doing less errors with the automation.
Let's keep on the conversations afterwards. I mean, it's just a sneak peek, and we should be in exchange continuously, but we are at the end of the time at the moment already. Thanks, Annikit. I will just remove you from the stage to close it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your engagement and questions you had. Julian, thank you so much for attending. I think it's just a great match to talk about this human side of automation with you. To all that attended, many thanks. And I have just a little announcement. We will start on 1st of August, our automation masterclass for strategic automation manager in organizations, where you will learn this topic and also other topics like this with other people from bigger companies, and you can exchange ideas and build your strategy around, among others, the human side of automation. Julian, anything from your side to close it?
Just thanks for having me. It was a wonderful discussion, and thanks to everyone that contributed. It was an hour well spent.
All right. Thank you so much. Keep on automating. Happy automating, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.